Zara stretched lazily on the plush, king-sized bed in the master bedroom of their mansion, still dressed in her silk nightgown, scrolling through Instagram on her iPhone 16 Pro Max. Everything around her reeked of money, from the imported Persian rug beneath her feet to the gold-plated vanity mirror on the wall. Life was good. No, life was perfect. She scrolled through Instagram, double-tapping on the posts of her fellow rich housewives, admiring their vacation pictures, designer outfits, and expensive shopping hauls. Her mouth opened wide in surprise as she scrolled past an influencer, flaunting a Hermes Birkin bag with the caption, "Another shopping spree in Paris because, why not? A queen deserves luxury." Zara sighed dramatically. "It's been almost 2 months since my last trip. I am due for another shopping spree in Dubai." Just as she was about to DM her travel agent, a soft knock sounded at the door. "Madam, good morning," came the timid voice of her maid, Ngozi. Zara, still absorbed in her phone, barely acknowledged her. "What is it?" "Your breakfast is ready, ma." Zara stretched like a spoiled cat. "Okay, bring it here." Ngozi came in with a silver tray filled with a steaming cup of Zara's special tea, a buttered croissant and freshly squeezed orange juice. Zara sat up and took a sip of the tea, but immediately frowned. "What is this?" she snapped. Ngozi froze. "Madam, is it not hot enough? Do you expect me to drink this nonsense?" I thought it was the right temperature, madam." Zara pushed the tray aside. "Take this nonsense away and bring me another one. Make sure it is exactly 75 degrees. "Yes, madam." Ngozi hurried away. Zara sighed dramatically and returned to her phone. "These workers in this house are getting useless by the day. Kamal must hire new staff." Her rich husband, Kamal, was a young businessman who had built an empire from real estates and oil ventures. He had married Zara out of love, hoping she would grow into a responsible woman. But instead, she turned into a full-time liability, a lazy wife who did nothing but shop, eat, and post on social media. Kamal had tried. Oh, he had tried to set her up in business, to encourage her to do something meaningful, but she refused, claiming she wasn't born to suffer. That evening, Kamal had just returned from work. As he stepped into their mansion, his eyes landed on the dozens of shopping bags scattered across the living room. He frowned. Not again. Zara was curled up on the couch, giggling at something on her phone. She didn't even look up when he entered. "Zara!" His deep voice broke the silence. She looked up. "Welcome, darling." Kamal slowly approached her, still looking at the insane amount of shopping bags. "Where is all this from?" She smiled. "Just some new arrivals. My stylist said I needed an upgrade." Kamal shook his head. "Zara, do you even know how much you've spent this week?" Zara shrugged. "What is the big deal? It's not like you can't afford it." "That is not the point," Kamal spat. "You've spent 10 million naira in the past 5 days alone." Zara rolled her eyes. "And so?" Kamal rubbed his forehead. "Do you ever think about saving, investing, doing something meaningful with your time?" Zara laughed. "Darling, that is why I married a rich man, to enjoy life. You make the money, I spend it. It's a win-win." Kamal stared at her, speechless. He had always known Zara was spoiled, but this was pure irresponsibility. "I have tried, Zara," he said slowly. "I got you a salon, a fashion line, a supermarket." Zara frowned. "God forbid me sitting in a shop from morning to night like a common woman. Never." Kamal looked at her in disbelief. "Zara, do you think money falls from the sky?" She stood up and placed her hands on her hips. "Kamal, let's be realistic here. You are a billionaire. Why should I stress myself when I can just enjoy my life?" Kamal sighed. "That is the problem. You don't want stress. But life can be unpredictable. You need to learn responsibility." "Okay, what if something happens to me?" Zara laughed coldly. "God forbid, my dear. Something happened to you? You that is richer than Dangote?" Kamal's eyes darkened. He had never felt this level of disappointment before. How can a woman have no ambition, no sense of responsibility, and worst of all, she refused to change? For the first time since they got married, Kamal regretted his decision. He swallowed hard and stepped back, shaking his head slowly. "All right." Zara frowned. "All right what?" He looked her deep in the eyes. "I just pray you don't regret this." With that, he turned and walked away. Zara couldn't be bothered anyway. Kamal was always talking about responsibility, but he still provided. She was living the dream, and nothing was going to change that. Little did she know that her perfect life was about to shatter. The day started like any other for Zara. She had slept until noon, wrapped in her silk sheets, while the house bustled around her. The scent of jollof rice and grilled chicken came from the kitchen, but she was in no rush to eat. Ngozi, her maid, knocked timidly before stepping in. "Madame, your breakfast is ready." Zara stretched lazily. "Okay, just keep it in the dining room." Ngozi hesitated. Zara frowned. "What is it now?" Ngozi faltered. "Madame, I just heard something on the radio." "Kamal, his car, accident." Zara's heart skipped. "What nonsense are you saying?" Ngozi swallowed hard. Kamal was in an accident on his way back from Lagos. His car... The ringing of Zara's phone cut her off. It was a strange number. She answered. "Hello?" A deep male voice spoke. "Good day, ma'am. This is from Lagos University Teaching Hospital. We regret to inform you that your husband, Mr. Kamal, was involved in a fatal accident. His remains are currently in our morgue." The phone slipped from Zara's hands. Her heart pounded violently. Her husband was gone. "No, no, no, not Kamal!" She let out a piercing scream. Soon the house was filled with mourners. Relatives, business associates, and friends all came to pay their respects. Zara sat in a daze, rocking her 2-year-old son absent-mindedly. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. She couldn't sleep, she couldn't breathe. She just wanted Kamal to come home. But he never would. Then, on the 4th day, reality punched her in the face. Her phone rang, another strange number. "Hello?" "Ma'am, this is Lagos University Teaching Hospital. We want to remind you that you must settle the outstanding hospital and mortuary bills before you can proceed with any funeral arrangements." Zara's blood ran cold. "Bills?" she repeated. "Yes, ma'am. Your late husband's medical and mortuary fees must be paid immediately." Zara was speechless. "How much is it?" 3.5 million naira. Her throat tightened. She had money in her account, but it was the money she had budgeted for her next online shopping spree. Is this how my life has changed? Without any option, she used part of it to clear off the hospital bills. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning. A week after Kamal's death, Ngozi and the rest of the household staff approached her. The nanny, the cook, the driver, and the gardener all stood before her looking nervous. Ngozi spoke first. "Madam, please, we need our salaries." Zara blinked. "Did Kamal not pay you?" Ngozi looked at the others, then back. "No, ma. He said he would pay us after he returned from Lagos." Zara's stomach twisted. This was the first time she was hearing about salaries. She had never been involved in such things. Tears burned behind her eyes. "Please, just be patient with me. I will sort it out." The staff nodded and agreed to wait. Zara thought of what to do. She needed money to settle all the bills, and the money in her account was running out fast. She decided to check Kamal's safe for any money or his cards, but found none. He had traveled with them. The next day, she dressed elegantly in a designer dress, diamond earrings, and high heels. She refused to look like she was suffering, at least not yet, and went to the bank. The bank manager greeted her with sympathy. "My condolences, Mrs. Kamal." She nodded stiffly. "Thank you. I came here because I need access to my husband's account." The manager hesitated. "Madam, I'm afraid that won't be possible." Her eyebrows furrowed. "What do you mean?" your husband took a loan from the bank, a very large one. His funds are currently frozen until his debts are settled." Zara felt like collapsing. A loan? Yes, he was indebted to the bank. Zara shook her head violently. "No, my husband was rich. He never told me about any loan." The manager looked at her with pity. "Madam, I'm very sorry." She stood up abruptly. "This is not happening." What was she supposed to do now? She had always thought Kamal had everything covered, so she never asked questions. But now she was lost. Tears burned her eyes as she took out her phone and dialed her mother. The moment her mother answered, she broke down. "Mama, Kamal is gone, and I don't know what to do. He took a loan from the bank and now we don't have anything. Mama, we are broke." Her mother was silent for a long time. Then, in a low voice, she said, "These men are unpredictable. When your father died, he left me too with nothing. If I hadn't been working at the time, we would have starved." Zara froze. For the first time in her life, she realized she was completely alone. Days later, another bank sent some representatives to Zara. One of them handed her an envelope. "Madam, as per the agreement your husband signed, this property was used as collateral for the unpaid loan. The repayment is overdue, and the bank is reclaiming ownership." Zara stared at him blankly. The words sounded like jargon, distant and muffled in her ear. "Collateral?" she repeated dumbly. The man nodded and flipped through the documents. "Your late husband used this mansion as security for the loan he took. Unfortunately, since there has been no repayment, we are left with no choice but to take possession of the property. You and your household must vacate this premises within 24 hours. Zara looked around her. The mansion, the place she had spent years lounging, hosting parties, shopping online and doing nothing meaningful, was no longer hers. She held her chest, gasping as she stumbled backward. Before Ngozi could rush to hold her, she had fainted. Moments later, Zara woke up on the living room couch. The room was filled with her domestic staff, who were looking at her with concern and uncertainty. Ngozi knelt beside her. "Madam, are you okay?" Zara tried to sit up, but her head was still pounding. "What happened?" "Madam, the bankers left after you fainted, but they meant what they said. We have until tomorrow morning to vacate." The words hit Zara again. Tomorrow morning. She was about to become homeless. The same staff who had catered to her every whim now looked at her pitifully, as if she were a stranger begging for survival. She buried her face in her hands. What am I going to do? There was a long silence before her driver, Musa, cleared his throat. "Madame, the truth be say, we no fit stay here again. The house go soon belong to another person." One by one, the workers nodded silently and began gathering their belongings. Ngozi, too, joined in. "Madame, I want to stay, but I have a younger brother to take care of. I need to find another job quickly." Zara looked at them, confused. She wanted to beg them to stay, to tell them she would find a way to pay them and keep them employed. But she had no money and no house. So, one by one, they packed their bags and left. By nightfall, the once lively mansion was empty. Only Zara and her son remained. Her phone was silent. There were no calls or messages. The so-called friends who used to party with her and join her on extravagant shopping trips had all disappeared. She had reached out to a few of them earlier that evening, hoping for help, but they all had the same excuses. Not a single one offered assistance. Zara let out a bitter laugh. "So this is what life is like when you have nothing?" She closed her eyes and thought of the one place she could go. The next morning, Zara gathered her valuables, her jewelry, designer clothes, and the little cash she had left. She hailed a taxi and instructed the driver to take her and her son to her mother's house in the outskirts of Abuja. When they arrived at the small bungalow, she hesitated before knocking. Her mother opened the door and froze in shock when she saw her. Zara, at that moment, crumbled. All the strength she had left evaporated. She collapsed onto her knees, crying uncontrollably. Her mother knelt beside her and wrapped her arms around her daughter. My child. I know. I know. But Zara couldn't stop crying. She had fallen from grace. She was no longer the wealthy, pampered housewife of Maitama. She was now just another struggling widow with a toddler to feed. The next morning, Zara was woken up by a loud bang on the door. She blinked at the unfamiliar ceiling. Then, reality hit her again. She wasn't in her mansion anymore. She was in her mother's small bungalow. She sat up slowly, feeling stiff from sleeping on the simple mattress. She came out and saw her mother standing, holding out a broom and a mop to her. Zara frowned. "What is that for?" Her mother looked at her sternly. "Zara, this is not your Maitama mansion. You will clean this house, bathe your child, and find something to do with your life." Zara froze. "Mother, you expect me to clean?" Her mother folded her arms. "Who do you expect to do it for you? Your invisible maids?" Zara put on a pitiful face. "Mother, I just lost my husband. I don't think I can—" But her mother cut her off sharply. "And what do you think I lost when your father died? You think life will pause for you because you lost a husband? My dear, the earlier you wake up, the better. Go and sweep the house now." Zara had no choice but to swallow her pride and do as she was told. It took her twice as long to finish the sweeping. She was exhausted and wanted nothing more than to collapse. But her mother wasn't done. "Go and bathe your son," she instructed, pointing toward the small bathroom. Zara stared at her helplessly. "Ngozi used to do that." Her mother looked irritated. "Well, Ngozi is not here. Go and bathe your own child." Without arguing further, Zara lifted her son and carried him into the bathroom. "If I don't adjust, who will take care of him?" She had no choice now. She had to learn. That evening, Zara sat with her mother at the dining table, eating a simple meal of eba and okra soup. She barely had an appetite. For the first time in years, she was forced to eat basic food. No fancy steak, no exotic pasta, no imported champagne. She pushed her plate away and sighed. "Mother, I don't know what to do." Her mother looked at her seriously. "Then figure it out." "But I have no money." Her mother smiled. "But you have expensive clothes, jewelry, handbags, things that cost more than some people's life savings." Zara stared at her mother in horror. "Mother, are you telling me to sell my things?" Her mother shrugged. "No, maybe you can just sit there and starve." The truth burned. Zara turned and looked at her son, who was sleeping peacefully on the couch. And she realized she had no choice. The next morning, Zara called a reseller, arranged a meeting, and sold over 80% of her designer clothes, bags, and jewelry. The money she raised was nowhere near the wealth she once flaunted, but it was enough to survive. With the help of her mother, she started a small provision store near the house. It was nothing glamorous, just a wooden stall with basic goods: rice, gari, oil, soap, and Maggi cubes. On her first day, she sat behind the counter, fidgeting nervously. She was so used to being served that the idea of being the one serving customers felt foreign and humiliating. A woman walked in and asked for a cup of gari. Zara nodded, then slowly scooped the gari into a measuring cup. This was her first sale, but it would not be her last. Slowly, business picked up, and Zara became more comfortable with it. 2 months later, Zara had completely transformed. She now woke up early, went to the market to restock goods, handled customers well, and managed her little business with wisdom. She had learned to budget, to save, and to be accountable. She had even saved up enough money for Kamal's final burial ceremony. With the help of her mother, she made the arrangements and the date was fixed. On the D-Day, the cemetery was filled with people. Her former house staff, friends, and family had gathered for the somber event. But then, something unexpected happened. As they waited for the coffin to be lowered into the ground, a loud scream from the crowd erupted. From the back, Zara turned sharply, and her breath seized. It was Kamal. He was walking towards them alive, and without any blemish. Zara fainted. "Water, bring water!" someone shouted. Zara jerked up and blinked rapidly, trying to understand her surroundings. When her eyes finally focused, she saw him again. Kamal, her husband. No, her dead husband. He was standing right before her. She screamed and tried to run, but Kamal held her back. "Zara, calm down. Stay away from me. You are dead. We saw the accident. Your body was destroyed." The crowd murmured in confusion. Some of her former housemaids and staff exchanged terrified glances. "Is this a ghost?" someone whispered. Kamal looked at her deeply. "Zara, I'm not dead." Zara's eyes widened in disbelief. This was not possible. It couldn't be possible. Her husband had died. The hospital had confirmed it. The bank had repossessed everything. She had been thrown out of her house and forced to struggle for survival. She had cried, suffered, fought for her life, and changed into a completely different person. And now, here he was. Alive? No. It had to be a dream. Kamal exhaled deeply. "Let's go somewhere private. I will explain everything." "No, Kamal, explain everything right here, in front of everyone, because if I suffered publicly, you will explain publicly." Kamal hesitated. Then he nodded slowly. He told the truth. "Zara, I faked my death." Zara blinked. "You what?" "I had no other choice," Kamal continued. "I had to teach you a lesson. For years I tried to make you reason, to make you responsible, to prepare you for life, but you never listened." Zara's chest tightened. "Wait, what are you talking about?" Kamal shook his head. "Zara, I begged you. I offered to set you up with a business. I gave you opportunities, but you refused to work. You spent millions on shopping, but saved nothing. You treated life like it would always be smooth. But life is unpredictable, Zara, and I needed you to understand that before it was too late." Zara's lips trembled. "Wow, so you just disappeared. Do you have any idea what I went through? Do you have any idea how I suffered?" Kamal nodded slowly. "I know exactly what you went through, because I watched you." Her breath paused. "You what?" Kamal took a deep breath. "I never really left, Zara. I stayed in the background. I had people keeping an eye on you." Zara couldn't believe her ears. "Kamal, you let me suffer? You let your son suffer? You let me hit rock bottom and believe I had lost everything?" Kamal looked at her painfully. "Because you needed to understand. If I had told you it was a test, you would have ignored the lesson." Zara's whole body trembled. She wanted to scream, to hit him, to demand why he put her through hell. But then she paused, because deep down, she knew he was right. She needed the change. She needed to grow. From being the entitled, lazy wife who believed in easy wealth, she needed to learn to hustle, to value money, to work hard, to appreciate survival. Her anger and humiliation clashed with a painful realization. Kamal held her hands. "Zara, I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it to make you stronger. And now look at you. You survived. You fought. And you came out better." Her heart softened, because even she was proud of herself. She had thought she was weak, that she couldn't survive without luxury and comfort, but she had. She had survived, and had become a woman of strength. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Kamal wiped them away softly. "I'm back now, Zara, and I want us to rebuild together." Zara cried. "Kamal, I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this." Kamal nodded. "Take your time, but just know I never stopped loving you." Zara looked at him and smiled sadly. "Neither did I." The crowd erupted into cheers. Her mother, who was carrying her son, smiled proudly. A month later, after settling back in, Kamal fulfilled a promise he had made to himself. He opened a massive shopping mall for Zara. It was one of the biggest in the city. But this time around, she didn't waste the opportunity. She hired good staff. She managed the accounts. She kept detailed records. She showed up early. She stayed late. She checked inventory, spoke to customers, reviewed reports, and even swept her own office when necessary. Zara had learned the value of money, the importance of work, and that luxury was meaningless without responsibility. She was no longer the careless housewife who lived for photos, filters, and frivolous spending. She was now a businesswoman, a wife who contributed, not just consumed. People who used to laugh at her now admired her growth. Former friends who had abandoned her tried to return, but she kept her circle small. She had learned that some relationships were only seasonal, and some disappear with your wealth. Kamal, true to his word, stood by her side as she rebuilt not just her life, but her character, her future, and her legacy. She still dressed well. She still smelled of vanilla and roses. But now, she smelled more of dignity. She wasn't just Kamal's wife anymore. She was Zara, strong, smart, focused, and fearless. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts about it in the comments section. What lessons did you learn from Zara's journey? Also, share this story with your loved ones. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Until next time, goodbye.